Hello, everyone. My name is Dakotah Aiyanna. I am an artist that lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. And today we are going to draw a character. We're going to develop a character for children's books. We're probably going to do like some scenes, just like light scene work. Yeah, just so it won't be just like a plain character on a white background, because that'd be kind of boring. But yeah, so we're going to do that. Like I said, I'm an artist that lives in Charlotte. I do murals, I do commission works, portrait work, kind of anything that involves art. I have my hands on it. Personally love doing murals and children's book a whole lot more than I like doing anything else. Okay, so here we have just a sheet of paper from my sketchbook. I have a mixed media pad, Canson. You can get this from Michael's. You can get it from any art store, honestly. But the mixed media pads are always good for like, acrylic, watercolor. I mean, it's mixed media, pencil, graphite, anything, because it's mixed media. I also brought my iPad, right? And I'm going to use Procreate. Well, I'm not going to use it, but just in case you have an iPad that you wanted to use, I have the iPad here. It's a 9.7 inch. I use the app Procreate. I will also let you guys know what pen tools that I use, what erasers I use, what I use for blending as far as all that is concerned. I can pull up a children's book that I am currently working on just to show you. Like, we won't create something like this per se, but just so you can get an idea and a feel for it, I'll let you guys know how I created this. But yeah, so there's that. I also have, like I said, I have my paper here from the mixed media pad. I have my colored pencils, which are just a 120 box set from Arteza Colors. You don't have to use these. Personally, I love them just because the colors are very rich, very saturated. You don't really get that in colored pencils a lot. But yes, I have my sticky eraser and a pencil sharpener. I personally do not like to use mechanical pencils. My dad used to get on me about it. So here we are with a regular number 2 pencil that you can also find at Walmart. The way that I like to do things, I got this technique from one of my favorite illustrators herself. Her name is Vashti Harrison. You can follow her on Instagram at Vashti Harrison, I believe. But she uses this method of little vegetables, right? These are my air quotes. They're not real vegetables, clearly. They're little vegetables. So let's see. We're gonna draw. I'm gonna do some mark off the page actually. Okay. The page is kind of bigger than I expected it to be, but that's okay. I usually just use my iPad for everything, but we're gonna mark off the page. This is gonna be our scene, right? So everything that we create will be inside of this box. Now, if you are on your iPad, what I typically like to do for my iPad is we're gonna go to the wrench. We're gonna go to Canvas. We're going to do drawing guide because it puts a grid on there, right? For the drawing guide, I typically like to do the 2D grid and the grid size 104 pixels because it's more of the smaller side. You don't have to do it that way. That's just the way that I prefer to do it. When I am sketching things out, I prefer to go to the brush library and you go to sketching. I prefer to use a 6B pencil. That's my favorite. Or I will use peppermint. The reason why I like using those is because, and I also use like a tan or a brown colored pencil because I don't really like to use black. But the reason why I like to use that is because, as you see, I don't know if you can really tell, but it has like the same kind of pencil feel to it. So it does make it seem like you're drawing with a pencil. But yeah, so that's where we are with that. I do use an Apple pencil. I don't use my finger. That was just way easier to show you guys though. Okay. I'll clean this line up really quick because I am a perfectionist. Okay. Now, let's see. If we're going to draw this character, right? We want him or her, or let's just say them for the time being. We want them to be standing up, right? So if we draw them standing up, we're gonna start with the head. The head can be any shape that you want it to be because it's a cartoon. And as you know, cartoons are not perfect. You can have them have a more round head. You can have them have more of a like a square head. Just depends on how you're feeling, right? Character development literally is all about creating what you want to create. There's different styles of character development. There's different styles of illustrations. So, two different kinds of heads right here. I typically like to draw a little cross in between. Now, as you see, we have two heads. Now, what comes after the head? The body. This is where Vashti calls them the little vegetables because they look like little vegetables after this. So you have the head here, you need to draw the torso because most of the time in children's book, you're drawing children. Children's have very short torsos. Everything about children are short because they're short, because they're children, right? So little vegetable here. Let's say for this person, we're just gonna do two characters just because I have two people drawn here. For this character, you want their body to be a little bit more bottom heavy. So you draw that. And you draw like a little squash, low key. It's like a spaghetti squash. If you're a kid, you don't know what a spaghetti squash is and you're watching this, just ask your mom when you go to the grocery store. Looks like a pumpkin squash or something, but they look like squashes, right? So you have two bodies, two torsos. Now what comes after the torso, you could do the upper body or the lower body next, but either way, they look like baby carrots, as Vashti Harrison also said. Now this is just to like get the body the way you want it to, right? So they're standing straight. I found doing it this way was a whole lot easier than doing it the other ways that I was doing it, trying to figure out how to do character development. And you have this one, we can do, maybe you want his hands to be here. This is when it kind of gets like on the using your imagination side. Like maybe she has pockets and she's putting her hand in her pockets or something. Maybe this hand is here, well, this arm is here. This is where the shoulders are. So of course you want the top of the arm to be in the shoulders. And maybe this is holding on to something. Maybe she's wearing a book bag or something. She's holding on to the straps. For this one, let's just make him a little bit on the extra side, right? We want him celebrating. We don't know what he's celebrating, but kids are very rambunctious and excited about life. They don't have any responsibilities. They get to live rent free. Adults have to pay for everything. I miss being a kid, but yeah, so here we go with this. He looks like he's excited about something. I don't know what though. Now, as you see, we have the two characters, their body positions are already here, right? So when it goes into developing the rest of the character, the way that I go about doing it, usually, like I said, usually I do it on my iPad. So it's like a tracing over what I've already done kind of process. But what we do from here is like you have different facial expressions that you can do. So if you were to do happy, it might look like this, right? Or it might look like this. It's really all in your eyebrows. Like maybe that one maybe looks a little bit content. And how big the smile is. It really just depends on all of that stuff. A lot of different things. If you had curious, maybe that looked like one eyebrow raised. And a slight smile on the side. Like there's just different facial expressions that you could do. upset or sad. You see? So it's all about the positioning of the eyebrows for the most part that make you, well, that will make or break a facial expression. I'm gonna go ahead and erase some of this. The sticky eraser that I have is like the best thing ever because it takes up majority of your sketch without taking too much. And also, while you're sketching, the sharper your pencil, the easier it is to like make lighter sketches. A little bit more, so clean slate. Okay. I'll sharpen my pencil really quick because we're getting into the details. Okay, so I've taken some of the initial sketchings away so we can actually like see the facial expressions. Okay, so now we have this cross here because that is going to be the center of the head for each person. And we don't know how we want our eyes to look. Maybe we want our eyes to be like wide, like this, right? We have these kind of eyes you can draw. You have just the lines. So we have this. There's different ways, you know, but usually whatever you start with, if one character has these eyes, all of your characters have to have these eyes for the most part. They don't have to be as wide, of course, you know, if you're drawing an older person, they might have smaller eyes with wrinkles around it, things like that. But yeah, so for now, I think I want this character to have these eyes. So we're going to draw the eyes on both sides like this. Right? So this is where her forehead is. You might want to draw hairline. My favorite thing to draw are like curly puffs and pigtails and stuff like that. So I'm going to draw her 2 puffballs. Why not? 2 are better than 1. Okay. Now for her nose, there's different ways that I do noses. Sometimes I do noses like, that's kind of small, you can't see that strong here. For the noses, sometimes I just draw like a little arch with 2 holes underneath it. Sometimes I will draw this, like 2 parentheses with 2 periods underneath, well, in between them. I guess I can draw that bigger so you can see it. So there's one set of like, this is a style that I do. This is a style that I do. But like I said, the same thing goes with the eyes. Whatever you do, you want the noses to not necessarily look the same. Like you can make the nose look smaller, you can make it look wider, but you want to make sure that while you're doing character development, that the characters look the same in a sense. Like you can tell that they're all from the same story or they're all from the same book. Like when you watch Disney movies, all of the characters don't look the same, but they all are very familiar in the faces and their body positions, like their body images, I guess you could say. They're relatively the same because that's how they develop the storybook. So same thing goes for when you're drawing characters just for children's books. If you're doing it just to be doing it, you still want to think about how you would want the character's nose to look, how they want their ears to look, their eyes, like everything. So for her nose, I'm just gonna do a cute little button nose. I'm gonna do the arch with the 2 periods underneath. I think those are really cute. Now, when it comes to the lips, you have different sets of lips that you can do. You can do simple curves. You can create fuller lips. Can you see that? I think I should do it a little bit bigger. You can create fuller lips like this, and then you can do something like this. This is typically what I like to do. In more simple character development, if somebody doesn't want like a super detailed children's book, I would do something along the lines of like the simple smiles. But for the most part, nobody wants like simple, simple designs or simple characters. They want like realistic looking characters. So I do this, and of course, if you do the lips like this, you can change how full the lips are by just simply not making the top lip that full, making the bottom one more fuller. You can do the Cupid's bow, which is the little dip in between the upper lip, or for the upper lip. You can do that. There's just different ways that you can kind of style the lips to make them look full, less full. Yeah, there's just different ways you can do it. You can have fun with it, just experiment, you know? Because at the end of the day, this is something that you're making up in your head. Okay, so like I said, I like to do the full lips. She made her bigger. And of course, she has to have ears. So usually where your eyes are, your ears follow. And with the ears, I just do C's. See here, see here. Sometimes I'll make them more bigger. I'll make them smaller, just depends. Okay. So far we have this character. We have her face. Now for the guy, let's make him. For the guy, we're gonna make him really excited. So it's the same thing. We're gonna make his eyes a little bit wider though. Boom. Of course, he has to have ears. His ears will go where the dips. Like he has really big cheeks because he's smiling really big. So his ears will go here. Of course, you gotta have a hairline. We won't have any hair for the most part, just probably like a little low cut. Okay. Of course, you have to draw their necks. Because what is a person without a neck? You would draw their necks to connect to their squash bodies. And this is where you just kind of trace over what you've already done. Now, when you're on the iPad, it's the same thing, right? So you're gonna add another layer and you're gonna trace over what you've already done. And this is when everything starts to get really fun. At this point, you're just filling in the body. Okay, so as you see, I have just filled in the entire body. On your iPad, like I said, it's the same exact thing, except for instead of erasing, all you do is add an extra layer because you might want to save the bodies for another character so that way you can save time on like doing the book. So you will add another layer and trace on top everything that we just did, like the facial expressions, just go on top of it instead of doing it on the same exact layer. So that way everything is in a separate layer. If you need to go back and change something, you can do that super duper easily. Yeah, so now here we are. We have his body, we have her body. And then what I do from here is this is when it, like I said, this is when it starts to get fun because this is when you can like play with clothing. You can dress them up, dress them down, however you want it to look. You can just add more character to the children with their clothes. So like we say, he looks like he's like very excited. Maybe they're siblings. Maybe she's more reserved and she's more like to herself and calm, and he is the complete opposite. So you kind of, depending on the character, also you want their style to represent them. So if you have a character like this, you probably expect to see them in like more calm colors. Yeah, just calmer colors, not something super bright and like all over the place. Whereas for him, maybe he likes to wear like a whole bunch of bright yellows and reds and like just really bright colors and just things that are like that. Maybe she likes to wear jeans and t-shirts with butterflies on them or something like that, right? Cool. So how we do that is we do the same thing. We have to create the body. So we know his chest is here, his waist is here. So how we did the face and we broke down the face, you gotta do the same thing. Chest is here, waist is here. So with that, this is where the waist is. So this is where his pants will start. Let us. Okay. So his pants start here. What kind of pants do we want him to wear? We might want him to wear some like cargos. I love drawing cargos on kids. It's kind of like my thing. All kids wear like really cool, baggy looking clothes. That's how I dressed as a kid, like with overalls. I love drawing overalls, so the girl would probably wear overalls. Most of the time when I draw female characters, I always draw like myself as a child because it's always fun doing that. Your style resembles mine for the most part. So here his pants are. Like we said, we want him to have on some cargos or something. The shirt, let's see, what do we want? Do we want him to wear? I'm gonna have a short sleeve shirt. Of course, you have to draw the neck hole. It's not a shirt if it doesn't have a neck hole. So boom, we have the shirt. And once again, we're gonna go back and slightly tap out some of the unnecessary sketchings. It's a lot. So now I'm gonna go over it to clean it up so we can see what we got. And of course, like I said, if you're on the iPad, you don't have to do that because you added a layer. Yeah, that's why I like doing stuff on my iPad because it definitely takes away sketching time. I know when I first started doing children's book, I did everything by hand, and you can only imagine having to draw the children's book by hand and then do like, whew, it was a lot. It was a whole lot, but we have upgraded to digitally doing everything. So here are his little carrot arms or baby carrot arms. how I make hands. I don't like doing hands. I hate doing hands, to be honest, but we do a circle like this. I always look at my hand because I always get confused. So if he is facing us and his hands are in the air, that means his thumbs will be inwards, right? If he is facing the opposite way, his hands will be outward. So his thumbs are inward, your thumbs are short. So I draw two little baby carrots, babyer carrots, I guess you could say, very, very small. After your thumb is your pointer. You see how much space is from this to this, and you just mimic that here. Same thing with this one, here. Then you draw your middle finger. Then you draw your middle finger. Then your ring finger. Then your ring finger. Then your pinky. Then your pinky. This is how I draw my hands. Now they are not perfect, but half the time in the books you can't even see their hands. So as long as it looks like they have something here, you can do, like, that's fine. Even if you wanted to do fist, the way that I do fist is the same way. You just draw a, what is this, a trapezoid? I guess, haven't been in school in a long time. Little trapezoid looking shape like that. And of course it has to have a thumb. Boom, well, it has to be bigger, but you get the gist of it. So of course, because they're smaller, their thumbs aren't going to be that much, but boom. So let's just go with the fact that he has his hands balled up. He's punching the air. 2 thumbs up. That's cute. We're going to keep that. We like that. So then for her, like I said, I love drawing overalls on little girls because I think it's extremely cute. So for her, we're going to do some overalls. So when you think about overalls, you got the buckles here. She has a shirt on underneath the overalls, right? Because she can't be out here without no shirt. We have to do this. More space. The overalls, this is how the overalls look. This is how the top of overalls look. So we're gonna do that, but clearly in a smaller way. Pocket here. And then, like I said, I like drawing baggy clothes. The way that you create bagginess is instead of it being a straight leg, like let's say these are pants legs, you're going to create shape with them. And then when we get to the actual coloring part, you'll be able to see how you can create more shape using shadows and all that fun jazz. But you create the shape first, and then you go back with shadows and light. So we're gonna do that with her pants. Okay. So boom, we got her stuff. I think we want her to wear a short sleeve shirt too, though. It's more than likely hot outside. Just bring it down. Excuse me. And as I said, she probably has her hands in her pockets. So the way that you create pockets is, the way that I do it at least, is I literally just put a slit where the pockets would be. And boom, you got pockets. It's that simple. I know we said that she was gonna be holding on to something, but yeah, we can still have her hold on to something. What is she gonna hold on to though? Oh, before I forget, with the overalls, you also want to make sure that you create the actual sleeve part. Because if not, it's just gonna look like there's no sleeve. So in order to do that, you just curve it outwards because that's where your underarm is, right? So it would look like this essentially. But yeah, you just create that here and then, boom. Well, that's kind of uneven, but you get what I'm saying. So then, do we want her? I don't know if I really want her holding anything else now. I'm gonna take that away because she's not gonna hold anything. She can hold something else. We're going to, oops. It's in the way. Okay, so boom. She just has her hands by her side and one in her pocket because she likes it like that. How you draw the shoes, because they have to have shoes and feet. The way that I do it is once again, everything with like this stuff is just shapes. These are how I draw my shoes. So for her shoes, it's gonna look like this. Boom. For his shoes, because he's like out to the side, it looks like this. His shoes look like this. So now that we have this, let's create some type of scene behind them. We can have them, let's just do a jungle scene just because that's what I just created. Well, that's what I showed you guys. So we got some trees, some crazy looking trees here. And like my favorite thing about children's books literally is because you get to live in your imagination. Nothing has to make sense. Because kids live in their imagination 24/7. So if you want this tree to be orange, the tree can be orange. If you want it to have a face, it can have a face. But this is the world that you're creating for somebody else to just basically be a part of, right? I have a jungle floor. So here's a jungle floor. I think I do want this tree to actually have a face. And if you're ever like doing children's book and you kind of get stuck on anything, I always, like I live by Pinterest. Pinterest has like a lot of inspiration. So I just get on there and I start looking. And I also like to watch Disney movies while I'm doing children's books. So that way my mind can just kind of stay in that very creative, imaginative space. My favorite Disney movie at the moment is Cruise. Like, that movie is amazing. The animation, the characters, everything about it is just like crazy. It's very well done. Okay. Boom. We got the talking tree here. Boom. Now the fun part. Let's clean her up some. All right, now on to the colored pencils. The fun part. Okay, so we said that we want the girl to be in like neutral colors, like calmer colors. So Now, once again, if you're on your iPad, make another layer so that way you can start doing the coloring on there. It'll be a whole lot easier than doing it on what you just did. So, okay, here we go. So we're gonna just color. Now, once everything is finished, we're gonna go back over everything. Well, I like to go over everything with a marker, quote unquote. It's really just a pen that feels like a marker. Okay. Now, when I said that you create the bagginess with the shading and stuff, this is when that comes into play. So you're gonna take a darker color, not necessarily black, but if you're using like, let's say you're using like, okay, I'm using this color blue. This blue is in the same color family, has like the same undertone. So you kind of want to make sure that you're using something with the same undertone. Like this undertone clearly has like a more on a green kind of undertone. So that's where you want to stay. So you just kind of fill in where you would think the pants would fall, where it would be baggy. And then you do the same thing with the pockets that we created, with the lines. But make sure you just, wherever you feel like there's bagginess or where you would like to see it be baggy, just you create that. Okay. And you want to outline her pocket too, on her chest. Just make sure everything for the most part is outlined and shaded correctly. Because you want things to look good at the end of the day. Okay. Now for her shirt. Let's do this color. I'm gonna use like a peachy color for her shirt. And you're gonna use a lighter green on the inner parts, of course. Like I say, create the shading to make his pants look baggy. Okay. See? Boom. 2 little characters. They're kind of cute. For his shoes, let's make his shoes. Make his shoes red. Now, for their skin, on my iPad, I love doing skin complexions because you can just play around with the colors a whole lot more. But because I'm not on my iPad, just maybe this is how this would go. Oh, also, okay, quick. If you're using your iPad, this tool right here is your best friend. This. So what that tool does is your blending tool. So what this does, and you have different ways that you can blend. Personally, I like blending with Tinderbox. I also like to sketch with Tinderbox sometimes too. Now, if you wanted to use the same, which I'm never opposed to, Peppermint 6B, whichever one, I can't remember exactly which one I started with. Peppermint. If you want to smudge with Peppermint, this is what it would look like. The same thing, essentially. So when I'm doing skin complexions and stuff, when you start to make the cheeks rosy, the kids, I feel like kids are always like a lot rosier than just adults are. But, you know, you get to play with their skin complexions a lot more. Okay, so moving forward. If you were not using your iPad and you were on the 1s and 2s like myself, we're just gonna make them I'm gonna figure it out. Okay. Don't forget to color for ears. You can make your characters whatever color you want. But I always make my characters like me just because why not? Okay. And the same thing goes for like your characters too. When you want to create more fullness, just use shadows. It's always, always, always going to be your best friend is shadows and lighting. So lighting for their complexion would be more like a tan color. You would blend that together. Shading would be just more of a, let's see if I actually have one. Shading would be like this, right? Complexion is this color. The shading will be this color. And I usually like to create the shading around like the sleeves. So I can create that kind of like that depth. And on the inner parts of the arm, on the cheek, definitely the neck. Around the hairline. I'm just listing places where I usually like add some type of extraness. So these are my pens, markers that I use for just like detailing and stuff like that. This is the, what brand is this? Pigma. I believe this is the one. Yeah, this is the one. Like each one has like different sizes. This is the 02, but we're going to use the one for the outline. Okay, so and usually like if I'm on my iPad, I would take like a peach color or something. Probably like this. If I take like a peach color like this one and like go around her cheeks, it's not really making much of a difference here, but I'll go around her cheeks and in her nose to like add that rosiness that I was talking about. And I would honestly do the same thing for him. But it's not making much of a difference on these two characters right here. Kind of smudge my color pencil a little bit. And boom. And this is our lovely character development session. Okay, so that concludes our character development session. I hope you guys enjoyed it. So as I said, like if you want to just go ahead and add a different background, you can add a different background. However you want it to look, you can do that. But just the main thing to remember is like using the baby vegetables as your guide. And if you ever want to change anything, just think about how it looks in your head. Just use the baby vegetables as a way to configure the poses and all that good stuff. But my website, I will share this with you all now, is Dakotah Aiyanna, DAKOTAHAIYANNA. Here you can find a couple of things on my website with my work. This is my children's book section, my murals that I've done around the city, just a few of them. Few more than enough, but done a couple of different styles of murals. I did the wild thing, where the wild things are for CMS and outdoors, and just other things that I've done in the city and around the city. You can just kind of check out on your own. But yes, this is my website. This is my about me if you wanted to learn anything about me. But yes, so that's all I have for you guys today.